Welcome to video number 6 of Learning Aim C, Wider Implications of Digital Systems. In this video, we will look at how computer systems are used for criminal use. We have one core objective for this video today, and that is for us to be able to understand the criminal use of computer systems. During this, we'll have a look at access and modification of materials, and we'll also have a quick recap of the creation and spreading of malware, which we started to look at in previous videos. We have heard of the term unauthorized access in previous videos, but just to confirm, unauthorized access is where a person gains access to a computer system without permission. This could be a hacker who gains access to a system that they shouldn't be using entirely, or it could be, for example, you at school, if you've got access to student share, but you decide to access staff share in inappropriate ways. This gives you an access to materials that you've not got permission to view. Hackers try to find weaknesses in a computer system. So by finding these weaknesses, they can then gain access to materials that they should not be able to view. Once a hacker has gained unauthorized access, they may decide to not only read the files, and this will take you to the next stage, which is unauthorized modification. When you modify the files or systems that you've gained access to illegally, you may delete the files so people who are authorized can no longer view them. Or you may open up files and therefore decide to change the work on those files, so when the authorized user comes to open up next time, there is mistakes in the work. This unauthorized modification is making changes that you are not allowed to do. In our cybersecurity module, we took a look at malware, and we're going to recap some of this and introduce more understanding of how malware is spread in the future video slides. Let's just recap what malware is. So malware stands for malicious software. And this means it can do something harmful to your systems or files, such as deleting the files entirely, slowing your computer speed down, which can frustrate the user, or send spam, like adverts in adware, that can frustrate the user when they're trying to work. Some examples of malware include viruses and worms, botnets and rootkits. In our previous videos, we also covered other malware such as ransomware and Trojan horse. A new piece of malware we can look at is called app malware. Now clearly this has taken off since the development of apps. As more and more people are becoming familiar with apps and wanting to use them commonly, criminals have found back ways into systems and devices by spreading malware via these apps. And again, an app's not only on your smartphone, but you can install and run apps on your laptops or your personal computers. And therefore, this can then give criminals access to more files and data that is stored on the PC, rather than just basic data that may be stored on your phone. Malware is created by humans. And these people will sit at a computer and write programmable code. And once they've written this code, it will be sent out to devices to find weaknesses in their systems to allow them access. And then the code will run or execute, which will then have a negative impact. Now you may be thinking that these programmers must be of high skill, and that's true for most. However, there are tools and support that are available for hackers to create malware. So if they're not sure on how to program, they can use these supportive tools to help them write this code. Clearly, that brings in a moral and ethical dilemma on whether people should be allowed access to materials that can cause harm for others. Malware can be spread from system to system in many different ways. Let's compare that to a human form of malware, a human virus, such as a cold. We can spread that through coughing and sneezing. We can touch hands, and therefore by touching these hands, we are then spreading the virus across. And also by touching food. If we touch the food and then we eat that food, the virus will get into our digestive system. Have a think how a computer virus and malware could be spread. We'll go through the answers shortly. There are a number of different ways that malware can be spread on computer systems, and we're going to look at some of these in more detail for the finishing slides of this video. These will be email attachments, which you may attach malware to that attachment, so when it's open and run, the malware is spread. A user may click on a web page that links to a download of malicious software. Removable media such as USBs, maybe having an auto-run mode, so once a user puts the USB into the port, the malware is run. And also Trojan horse can exist, where a useful item of software is downloaded by a user, but inside that contains some malware that harms the system. Let's take a look at the USB stick method. So an employee could find a USB stick in the car park, and when they put this USB stick into the port on their computer in work, the malware is then run. And this means then the system is infected. And you could have adware or ransomware that then occurs on your system. Now, this can be prevented by blocking USB ports. And this is what we do at school. When you try to put the USB into the port, it's not recognized and therefore malware cannot spread. This does have downsides because employees will not be able to transfer work onto USBs to take it home to finish it. Another method of spreading malware is via email attachments. So imagine you receive an email, and in that email there's a picture attachment. So you click on the attachment to download it to view it. Without realizing it, the attachment contains malware, which is then operated and run once clicked upon. The malware then sends itself to contacts, so other people can open up the attachment and receive it on their systems as well. And on your system, because you've now been infected with the malware will then run. So again, you might have a virus installed. You might have spyware, so people can watch what passwords you type in and use them to commit identity theft. How can users reduce the chance of this working? Well, if you scan all your email attachments with antivirus software, this can then detect if the attachment is dangerous to your system or not, and gives you confidence that downloading the attachment will not harm your system. The final method we're going to look at in detail is downloading the malware onto your system. You may visit a website, and without realizing it, this website is malicious. It has bad intent. And when you click on a link to download something, whether that's you believing you've got a free song or a receipt for an item you just purchased, when you click on that link, the file is downloaded to your system, and when that file is then opened or run, malware is installed onto your system or device. And again, this could be a virus, or it could be a rootkit, or it could be a Trojan horse, where you think you've downloaded an MP3, and when you play it, you can hear the song. Without realizing it, there's also some malware inside running. To try and prevent people from spreading malware and misusing the computers for bad, laws have been created. You may have heard of the Computer Misuse Act. This is in place to make it illegal for people to gain unauthorized access to systems without permission. And the next stage of the Computer Misuse Act is if someone has gained access unauthorized and they then decide to modify the files. So they may delete your ICT coursework, or they may try and blackmail you and say, if you give me £20, I will give you your coursework back. The third level of the Computer Misuse Act is where they deliberately try to make you unable to access the system anymore via spreading malware. The next law that you may have heard of is the Police and Justice Act. And this makes it illegal for you to create malware. So if you try to create malware and spread it, then the Police and Justice Act can prosecute you. Now, if you break any of these laws, you could face time in prison, up to 10 years. And you can also receive a large fine. This is the end of Learning Game C now.